Hello, everybody. Welcome back from the session on alphabet soup, demystifying ASOC, ASPM, UVM, and RBVM. Hopefully, that session helped you understand what each one of these is and the relationship between them. It sure was confusing for me when I heard about them the first time. Now, the next session that we have is AI in AppSec, artificial intelligence in AppSec. So before I give you the details of that talk and we head out there, I'd like to give a shout out for one of the diamond sponsors for this event, Armor Code. Armor Codes helps organizations unify their application security with infrastructure security. Its AppSecOps platform unifies the vulnerabilities across application security, infrastructure security, and cloud security so that the AppSec team and the security team have a one unified view of vulnerabilities across these different domains. And the development team has a clear view of the most prioritized critical issues that need to be fixed. And so this helps smoothen the workflow between the AppSec and the development teams through automation and orchestration as well. And the development team can then focus on the highest priority issues and help ship the software securely and ship it fast. All right. Now, coming back to the AI in AppSec use case, artificial intelligence has always stirred imagination. And ChatGPT just took it to a whole another level because it, in many ways, democratized access to AppSec. So everybody, whether they're programmers or not, could now program. And people that were already programming could become better programmers. People who are not authors could actually write books. So that was the power that we have all seen. But it also has the security implications to that one. So this talk that we have, we look at artificial intelligence and its use cases in AI, in application security, and how it can be used to make it better and how guardrails can be put around it. The speakers for this particular topic are Russell Ragar, who is head of security at SnapDocs, and then Sangram Dash, who is head of InfoSec at CSense. So without further ado, let's go listen to AI in AppSec.
We're excited today to bring to you this session on artificial intelligence in the field of application security. And with that, Sangram, could you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Absolutely. So thanks, Russell. I'm super excited to be back together like last year. Very quick introduction. My name is Sangram Dash. Been in the space, cyberspace, doing identity, product security, and various other compliance and privacy sort of risk mitigation activities. Very recently, I was at 𝗕liche Global as a leader for the cyber function, and before that, I have spent a few years with companies like Fast.co, which is a payment startup, and at Silicon Valley Bank, Square, PayPal. I spent quite a bit of time there, roughly 6 years, doing product risk activities. And I have an MBA from UCLA Anderson, and I have a few certifications like CISSP and others. Very passionate about this space, always learning and growing, and glad to be part of this conversation with you, Russell. And thanks for the Purple Book Club for this opportunity to share our thought process. That said, Russell, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Russell Ragar, and I'm the head of security for SnapDocs, which is a fintech SaaS company. I have actually had a long career here in mostly Silicon Valley, working at Cisco, VMware, and also AWS security. I've been acquired myself 6 times, I believe, and I've actually been involved in about 54 other acquisitions. I did a lot of acquisitions and changes over time. I've been involved in securing software development life cycles for a couple of decades, actually, for Cisco, for AWS, VMware, things like that. So that's pretty much my background. Thank you.
Wonderful. Let's dive in. So, Russell, this is one of your area of passion, and you and I are having a lot of conversation around what's happening, what's the impact. So tell the story.
Okay, good. I think that, okay, well, there's a lot of buzz going on, obviously, because of the release of ChatGPT. And I kind of wanted to give us to step back and get a 10,000-foot view on what artificial intelligence actually was. And it's really interesting to me that really there is no generally accepted definition of artificial intelligence. That the old joke is actually artificial intelligence is anything which you want computers to do that they haven't been able to do yet. But actually today, artificial intelligence has come to mean anything where we train the software so that it actually learns from experience, and actually it gets the ability to actually recognize patterns or to make predictions or things like that. And that this field has existed for decades, back to the 1950s, really. But what we're seeing right today with ChatGPT is that this is the first consumerization of a language model, so that you can actually see the effects, so that the consumer can actually see the effect of the power of what artificial intelligence can do in this particular case, with the ability to predict text. Okay, so it's predicting text, it's predicting in more text, and on and on. So it can actually generate text according to whatever precepts or whatever that you're asking for in the first place. Now, obviously, generative AI is also being used to generate videos or pictures or things like that as well. But it's really important to understand that generative AI is based upon absorbing a large body of material, basically learning from that, and then predicting what is the most likely next thing that should happen, or something that looks reasonable next. It's really important to understand that this software has no sentience at this point. It doesn't really understand what it's saying. Okay, so that you can't really trust what the software actually generates. It is simply generating what seems like a likely thing that looks good it matches the patterns of the kinds of things it's actually seen in the past, right? We do not have artificial general intelligence at this point, right? There's no strong AI. There's no true sentience. The software has no understanding of what it's actually, what it's generating or what it's communicating with us. However, it is still powerful and it's still useful. And we're going to get more into some of the things which actually how this affects the field of application security. And there are many talks actually about artificial intelligence and that technology. But the focus today is really, how does AI affect application security, both from a threat perspective and also as an opportunity perspective. We're going to be diving into some of the things that we can see will be coming immediately and in the future in our space.
Wonderful. And to build on the thoughts and the basic understanding you shared with us, a lot of opportunities we see in our space, and not necessarily just AppSec, but overall cybersecurity in general. And if you just focus on AppSec, like think about the testing, right? The typical testing we do, SCA or software composition analysis, or SAST and DAST and various other things, that can be heavily automated. And when it gets automated, what it means is it looks at a pattern, it finds something which is not outside of the pattern, which is happening today, even, right? Then that detection, and then there is a remediation aspect of it, or fix aspect of it. Something which is very routine and doesn't need too much of human creativity, or we have already figured things out and we wanted to apply that particular method, right? So that would be opportunity-wise, will be automated, right? So does it lead to a bunch of elimination of roles and things of that nature? We do not know. But what we know is based on even existing capability in a classic DevSecOps process and the scanners we run, those are doing it to some degree, but it doesn't have the ability to auto-remediate yet, right? So you will see it's moving from a classic testing, detection, and remediation path, right? And Russell, you do this for a living. Tell me, like, do you see that emerging, and do you see that as more like an opportunity for companies to build and automate, or should we look at it as a threat in terms of job elimination and efficiency and whatnot?
Oh, it's definitely an opportunity. I think that the field of application security is rife with opportunity here, because really most of our systems do not use any machine learning at this point in time. Most of the things like our static analysis tools, for example, generally are pattern-based, but there are rules which were designed by human beings to recognize in the code, right? They haven't really, most of them are not really deploying any actual artificial intelligence at this point. So in this, I think there's many opportunities within application security for utilizing artificial intelligence, particularly in this case, in automated testing. One of the places where we have the biggest problem is we don't have enough engineering time to actually to write functional testing, unit tests, interactions with our software, right? So I believe that actually what you'll see now, and there's some few startups in this particular space, which are developing automated testing that can act like a human interacting with our software, and we can teach it basically, or we could how to interact like a human would with a website, and then we can actually do more testing in that way. So what I think that automated testing will definitely grow as we add machine learning technologies into functional testing, static analysis. The dynamic application security testing as well will be expanded. There's definitely a lot of startups in this space and that are adding machine learning tech automated testing. Sure.
Yeah. And then build on what you just said. There will be more innovation coming in data management aspect of it, right? Like obviously, the data you feed to the model, and then data which comes out of the system, is it the right information got out in terms of what human would have done? So that is where you will see a lot of innovation, right? And in fact, one of the use cases I was thinking about is like I come from fintech background, fraud data creation and detection. What it means is, you can only detect something we know is a pattern, right? So in here, you can think about what else can be a potential vector of fraud, and that data can come in, and you're essentially doing a negative test of the model, right? So it's just, again, I'm thinking from a classic fraud, financial fraud point of view. The same thing does apply to other areas where wherever the test cases where we are probably didn't even know or existed, we will start thinking about those, and we will start hardening the AI model itself to have a better response, right? Same story with identity, right? Identity is a classic. Like we see a bunch of data coming in, tools are using various levels of access, and using these from a data model standpoint. If you can fit into who got access to what in terms of the toolings and the software we have, I believe we'll have some innovation where we can detect, that particular person now, that particular person have got too much of access, or essentially can be very, very damaging from a corporate standpoint. So the behavior and activity-driven identity aspect of it. So these are the kind of ideas we think will be, impacting AppSec as a domain. But over to you, Russell, around risk quantification. You had something great to say with that.
Risk quantification. Okay, but I wanted to touch on automated detection. I think that we in AppSec have a ton of data, largely which we could correlate with. We have more data than we actually know what to do with, really, with many different data sources. And I think that obviously there's we have a great place for actually utilizing artificial intelligence to consume that data, to take it from being data to being insights, so we can actually make proper decisions. I think automated detection is a great example. There are multiple different software companies today that are actually starting to consume logs and actually can tell us, like, look, notice abnormal behaviors, right? A SIM is a great example of something that really could really benefit from machine learning. Similarly, in API security, API runtime monitoring, where you basically, there's multiple different companies like Salt or Traceable or things like that, where you take the interactions that people are having with the APIs and mirror that traffic over into a machine learning model. And then what you do over time, you can train the machine learning can basically train on the way that normal people interact with your applications, such that you're expected to do a particular sequence or a particular thing of API calls, so that when unusual API calls could become flagged, you can flag those things and then block those abnormal behaviors, because there could be somebody who's basically camped out on your APIs and exploring them or trying to see if there's data leakage or things like that. Those things are great things that can be detected today with current technology that is available that we should be applying. You mentioned risk quantification. I'm really excited about this because I think this is one of the biggest problems that is in application security these days, is that risk is basically likelihood times impact. And the problem we have with most of our tools, our security scanning tools, is that they really have no great idea of what the likelihood or the impact is, because they don't really have we're not correlating the information as far as the use of those systems that we're finding these particular findings in, and we're also we're not pulling in threat intel from the outside. We don't know the context these things are doing in. So actually, I think one of the things we'll get out of more as software continues to evolve is the ability to actually do better calculations of the likelihood that the exploit will actually happen, and then the context of actually figuring out the context of that, of that
likelihood and impact.
Right. Yeah. So once we do that, we can prioritize, and this allows us to figure out which things we should be focused on. Because one of the problems we have in AppSec today is we're fixing a lot of things which are not sure are really exploitable. Okay, you got a container image, then it has a particular operating, an OSS library, but you don't really know if that OSS library is actually ever really being called. You don't know if those code paths are in use, all those things. With machine learning, we'll actually be able to start with telemetry data, we'll actually be able to start figuring out what's normal or what's actually being used in our systems. So we'll be able to come up with better ideas of what the likelihood of the exploiting the known vulnerability in the code is. Those kinds of things will be enhanced by having a machine learning agents and the ability to look deeply into our execution environments.
Yeah, and that's all about data there, right? So looking at the time here, I think let's keep moving. So the threat, obviously there is opportunity, but there is also bad guys are waiting there to use this, because so far they had to work hard to use, and now they don't have to work really hard to use some of these models because it's in the public domain, right? So we believe the velocity of attacks is going to be higher, right? 0 days will be ready to be exploited literally on 0 days. Don't have to wait for a few days to be creative on how to use it. The new attack methods will be evolving as well, in the sense that because to some degree on API connected world or microservices world, we got certain controls in place, right? On AI side of it, those controls are not there yet, right? How the data input and data output and those controls has to be articulated. But based on the vector, we have to start deciding on what controls are required and going to help. Like one of the examples is data poisoning, right? So you have an image, detection where input gets validated and there is an output. If you put a little bit of a noise into that particular image, the image determination could be something completely different, right? Which is, you probably know Google's infamous picture. I don't want to say that, but it's that in a public domain. So those are the real problems we'll see. So the company's reputation will be at risk because somebody will come in and manipulate some data elements into the model, the data getting into the model that will lead to a wrong, some sort of outcome, right? And the story goes on, right? I mean, the automation around malware or even simple, the crafty, the way we write our emails and the sophistication of those emails, like the human eyes, typically we used to identify bad grammar or the way the emails are written, not professional enough. Those days are over. Now, bad guys are going to write good emails. And so it'll be interesting to see how this space is going to be, but threat is definitely out there. And we as professionals need to be thinking about what are those different threats and how do we build controls to prevent those. I'm sure there are a couple of other ideas you have. Would you like to talk about fraud and fake, the deep fake and things like that?
Right. I mean, one of the things you don't see today is you don't see tools where basically the public is allowed to register, like say your website has the ability to have someone self-register. Well, now actually with artificial intelligence and for generative AI here, it'll be relatively easy for an automated process to, register itself into a system and begin utilizing it, and basically in a way that our simpler, earlier malware tools couldn't do, right? They can begin interacting with it, right? And that will lead to increased levels of fraud, obviously, because there'll be fake people who are registering to utilize our applications. But in addition, it will allow them to get further along, so they can start testing deeper into our applications, because those applications will be authenticated and deeper within our code. So yes, expect all that.
Yeah.
Sure.
All that to happen.
Right.
Yeah. So that's it. You have a tactical steps and checklist.
Sure.
Russell,
right.
do you want to walk us through that?
Sure. Okay. I think the main thing I wanted to point out is that obviously there's a lot of buzz about AI, but I do think that there is a big competitive advantage for when a human is assisted with machine learning or artificial intelligence or generative AI. Basically, humans plus AI work together better than actually one or the other alone. So I believe that you will definitely see that it is it's a productivity enhancement to actually utilize these tools. So I don't think the right thing to do is try to stop them from entering your organization. I think the right thing to do is to try to figure out how to use them successfully. But I do think that the responsible thing at this point would be to generate appropriate policies to educate the user base within your organization to the threats involved. Definitely, you want to look at data sharing when you're working with any third party. There's just no different than any other third party risk management assessment. You should be doing those when you're sharing data with third parties. What's the risk involved from a likelihood and impact of that risk, and try to keep them under wraps or under control. There are cases when you should not be releasing certain kinds of data, and they should be running instances that are entirely within your control, so you can maintain custody. Data or sensitive data, you should be doing that in your own environment. You shouldn't necessarily be handing that off to a third party, particularly an untrusted third party. So figure out make the appropriate risk decisions is what I'm trying to get at. You should be aware of that. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
No, there are very useful checklists. I'm kind of looking through the list here. And API security, you're talking about, I think last fall you talked about rate limiting. That's probably one of the key control in this case, right?
Right, true. Well, it's true. I mean, if you're considering the fact that actually the threats will actually be sped up and interacting faster, then yes, you need to identify automated systems that are interacting with your API and doing exploring and trying to find problems with your APIs. So yes, rate limiting so that you're providing APIs appropriately limited to what a human would interact with, or trusted third parties that your trusted customers, when you know those are. That's the right thing to do. Slow down the processes so that machine learning can't, or artificial intelligence in general can't actually be exploiting your environment. Sure.
Yeah. And in fact, I'm advising a company where we're talking about how do we use the data without sharing the true data, in the sense, give enough of information to perform the testing without giving customers data, right? That's possible. Like some of the innovation we'll see in the industry where you will not really share the true data, but you will share some sort of data which is good enough for you to build the products on top of it, right? And then even if you share data, it's in a way that it is going to be not really associated or identifiable for a bad actor to really use it, right? So those are the kind of innovation we'll see in that space.
Sure. Right. I'm really excited about the possibility of generative AI for threat modeling. Okay. So right now there's just our processes for doing threat modeling are far too manual and time intensive. But on the other hand, with generative AI, we could actually generate better threat models to figure out what possible problems we might have. Yes, I'm really excited about that. That will really speed up our processes. Now, obviously, all the output of these generative AI needs to go through humans to verify that it's actually still valid. And we need to do all the appropriate testing and all the right reviews and everything else. But on the other hand, we could do faster. So by using generative AI for assisting us. Yes.
Yeah. And the last bullet I see there is called build a platform to unlock the value of security data. I think literally, I believe there are some companies, and particularly I don't want to name a company, but the ones who are defending us, almost 90% of email threads or bad URLs and all that, they are using ML for a long time, but that's going to really change a lot, and that will be much better off, I believe, because you'll have aspect of data which can predict literally what is currently wrong or what can potentially go wrong. And that is going to be a huge win for security done well. Right. So again, we have to see how that industry, how industry is going to react to the availability of data and finding what is a real threat and which is not a threat within that data set.
Right. To start, what I'm trying to pull out here is that you should have a long-term strategy for how you're going to store your data in a structured fashion so you can utilize these technologies as they become available. You should be building that now, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it makes the most sense. Sure.
All right, we are getting to the last slide, and we are a couple of minutes away from the timer I have running here. But Russell, like every year, you and I are having fun doing this, and and this is an interesting year, particularly because of what's happening in the marketplace. Many of us are curious the impact of AI in AppSec. What are you doing? I mean, without giving out the specifics within a company, what are those few things you're doing today? Which obviously we're talking about data, which kind of make you think we should be doing in anticipation of better AppSec enabled by AI.
Okay, right. I think the answer to your question is we're doing many things that are actually on the technical checklist already within my own company. I think the main thing is actually trying to think through how we want to store our data and so that we can actually do the correlations between different things, right? So I really think that that's the right long-term strategic plan. From a tactical perspective, yes, publish policies, tell people how to use AI, tell them what the concerns are, all that all needs to be happening right away. So we're doing that as well.
And I know data will be the another way, like as the testing or automated testing and the use of data into those, that will be another place to look at. And even the newer tools which will be coming at us, which is enabled by AI, we got to figure out a way, should we trust that tool? Then with that particular software, whatever we buy, whatever AI transformer they're using, is that transformer hardened enough to give the right data, right? So I think security of those AI products, let me put it that way, right? Security of AI products will be our concern as well, right? At some point, somehow you have to figure out that,
you're right.
Yes, this product is trusted because whatever, and this product is not trusted because it has certain, a level of maturity to be accomplished. So a lot to happen in that space. So super excited about how the next 12 months is going to be.
Yes, I am as well.
All right, cool. So I think we're coming to the end of it. Russell, thank you for being the partner in crime. And it's always a pleasure sharing insights through Proper Book community. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Sangram. It's always great working with you.
Thank you. Have a good one. Take care.
Bye.